the Real Madrid Champions League repeat in 2016, 2017. It was the third Champions League title for Ronaldo in his last four seasons. It is Ronaldo that has the match of 34, dating back to 2014. He won the 14, 16, and the 2017 Champions League finals. The 2017 Champions League final saw Real Madrid defeat Juventus in the Champions League final. For goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon, the spell continues. It was his third Champions League final loss without winning a title. As a matter of fact, this year in 2020, I'm going to predict Gigi Buffon to win the Champions League once the Champions League resumes. The 2016 Champions League final was played over at Cardiff, Wales. The 2016-17 Champions League final was played over at the city of Cardiff, Wales, which is pretty interesting because Cardiff, Wales is the hometown of Gareth Bale. He was born at Cardiff, Wales. He won the Champions League over at his birth city of Cardiff, Wales, which is where the 2016-17 Champions League final was played at. And the interesting thing to note about that is that Real Madrid entered the Champions League final with 11 Champions League titles. Real Madrid ended up winning their 12th Champions League title in 2017. It is Bale that has gematria of 11. Real Madrid entered the final with 11 titles with the Cardiff, Wales native Gareth Bale. And he did indeed end up winning the Champions League that season, the Cardiff, Wales native. In gematria, it is Wales that has the same gematria as Gigi Buffon. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo won his fourth Champions League final over at Wales. The 2016-2017 Champions League was the 25th edition of the Champions League, meaning that there were 24 prior Champions Leagues that were called the Champions League. It was the 62nd edition of the Champions League, the 25th ever since they changed the name to the Champions League, meaning that there have been 24 prior finals played when it was called the Champions League. So it's 4 that has gematria of 24. It is 4 in Spanish gematria, cuatro, that has gematria of 24. It is Juventus that has gematria of 24. Alvaro Morata was a Real Madrid Youth Academy graduate. Right? Yes, he was. He scored in the Champions League final for Juventus in 2015, but he was immediately sent back to Real Madrid after 2015-2016. Morata came in as a sub against his former team, Juventus, in the Champions League final. He was a big scorer for Juventus not too long ago, a couple of years ago. Alvaro Morata came in the 89th minute. It is Alvaro that has gematria of 24. It is Juventus that has gematria of 24. It is midfielder Toni Kroos that won a Champions League title over Juventus. It was an Italian team that made it to the Champions League final in the 25th edition ever since it was renamed the Champions League. Karim Benzema ended up beating Juventus as a member of Real Madrid. Paul Dybala wore number 21. Juventus were trying to win their first title in 21 years since 1996. By the way, 1996 is also a 25 year. It was the 25th edition of the Champions League since it was renamed from the European Cup. Juventus were trying to win the Champions League again 21 years later in 2017, but instead it was Real Madrid and Sergio Ramos. Real Madrid's nickname is Los Blancos. It is Blancos that has gematria of 21 and Ramos has gematria of 21. These guys ended up winning the title instead of Juventus, who were trying to win it 21 years later. Juventus were trying to win the treble that year because they won Serie A and they won Coppa Italia. It meant they were going to play for a treble in the 62nd Champions League final, it didn't necessarily mean that they were going to win it. Now, Luka Modric, he did win the Champions League in the 62nd edition of the Champions League. Marco Asensio was one of the 4 scorers in the Champions League final for Real Madrid. Marco Asensio scored in the 90th minute. It is Marco Asensio that has Gematria of 132. The Juventus slogan, until the end, fino alla fine equals 132. It is Marco Asensio that scored against Juventus. Juventus also has Gematria of 132. Now, Juventus wear the black and white stripes. They are the core colors of masonry, which represents balance in the universe, the meaning of life. The 16-17 Champions League adds up to 33, and it is Juventus FC in their Masonic black and white stripes that played in the final. Now, the interesting thing about 2016-2017 is that Real Madrid is another Masonic team. They are represented by the throne of the Spanish royalty, of the Spanish royal crown. Real Madrid in 2016-2017 ended up winning their 33rd league title that season. So it was Real Madrid's 33rd title. The 2016-2017 La Liga was the 33rd edition of La Liga. And in the year that Real Madrid won La Liga for the second time with Ronaldo, they defeated Juventus FC in the Champions League final. This is why they won the league in a year sequence of 16-17. The Gematria of the site of the Champions League final, Cardiff, Wales, has Gematria 53. Sami Khedira won a Champions League in 2014 with Real Madrid. He faced off against his former team in the Champions League final, Sami Khedira. He played in the Champions League final in 2014. Sami Khedira equals 53. Cardiff, Wales, the site of the final, has Gematria 53. Captain Giorgio Chiellini. Giorgio is Gematria 53. Gianluigi Buffon was trying to win the Champions League that year. Gianluigi equals 53. 2016-2017 is a 53 season manager. Massimiliano Allegri. Massimiliano has Gematria of 53. The Italian board for Campionato Championship, 107. This is why an Italian team played in that final. Luka Modric was a winning member for Real Madrid. The Ballon d'Or winner later on won the Champions League at Cardiff, Wales. It is Cardiff that has Gematria 38. It is Paul Dybala, number 21, that was trying to win the Champions League 21 years later. But ultimately, it was not meant to be because Casemiro scored a screamer for Real Madrid for their third goal. Casemiro has Gematria 38. Ultimately, what the Gematria of Germany represented is the fact that Gianluigi Buffon was trying to win the Champions League to complement the World Cup title he won at Germany over at Cardiff. It meant that he would play for the chance to win the Champions League. It, however, did not necessarily mean he would win it. Cristiano Ronaldo did win the Champions League. Ronaldo won the Champions League over at Cardiff. The Portuguese striker. Portugal has Gematria 38. Cardiff has Gematria 38. There is a plan to put Juventus up against Real Madrid in the 16-17 season. Two clubs that are highly symbolic in terms of Freemasonry and the paternal order. It was the 119th season of Juventus. Master Plan has the same Pythagorean Gematria as Cardiff. Master Plan, an all-seeing eye, equal 119. It is Cardiff that has Gematria 47. In Spanish Gematria, the champions has Gematria 47. And they won the Champions League that year. The matchup itself, Juve versus Real. In Real Madrid itself has Gematria 36. The Champions League final was played on March the 6th, which is a day of 3-6. Juventus acquired Gonzalo Higuain from Napoli. It is Gonzalo that has gematria of 36. He was the guy that was supposedly supposed to put Juventus over the top, but it didn't happen that way. He came from Napoli. Napoli has gematria of 31. They ended up facing Madrid in that final. Madrid is 31. The Croatian forward Mario Mandzukic scored in the 27th minute for Juventus. Croatia has gematria of 31. Juan Cuadrado got a red card against Real Madrid. Leonardo Bonucci faced off against Real Madrid. This is why you see many Juventus players that have gematria of 31. For Cristiano Ronaldo, he won the 2008 final, he lost the 2009 final, he won 2014, he won 2016, and he won 2017. Juventus' last Champions League title came during the 41st edition of the Champions League. Ronaldo took his Champions League record to 4-1. Real Madrid won the Champions League final by a score of 4-1 against the team that last won the Champions League during the 41st edition of the Champions League. In other words, it was Ronaldo's fourth Champions League title in 5 finals. Cristiano has gematria 45. He beat Dybala in the final. Dybala is 45. He ended up winning a three-peat later on. Three-peat is 45. Real Madrid won the repeat against Juventus. Repeat has gematria of 65 and 21. January the 28th, Gianluigi Buffon's birthday adds to the 29. It is Bayern who Real Madrid defeated in the quarterfinals of that season. They defeated them in the quarterfinals. They defeated Bayern en route to the repeat. As I've said before, Gareth Bale is from Cardiff. He won the Champions League over at his hometown. Gareth Bale is gematria 43. The nickname of Juventus, the old lady, has gematria of 43. The Spanish word for Wales is Yales. Yales has gematria of 44. It was the 25th edition of the Champions League since it got renamed. Ronaldo's birthday, February the 5th, 2-5. That is the gematria of Italy. His birthday numerology that year, February the 5th of 2017, adds up to 44. That is the gematria of Wales in Spanish gematria. February the 5th of 2017 adds up to 24. Once again, 24 for Ronaldo is the gematria of Juventus. Manager Zinedine Zidane used to play for Juventus, lost in the Champions League final with Juventus, won Serie A. Zinedine Zidane did not want to face Juventus because he played for both Real Madrid and Juventus during his playing career. He wanted to avoid his former club, but ultimately that is not up to Zidane. That is up to UEFA. Former Juventino Zidane managing Real Madrid. He played for both Real Madrid and Juventus. If you are a Spanish speaker, is this the repeat in Spanish gematria? What is the word for repeat? La repetición es gematria of 64. They won the repeat against Juventus Football Club. Ronaldo scored in the 64th in the 20th minutes of the game. Juventus Football Club has gematria of 64. This is why Ronaldo scored in the 64th minute against Juventus. It was a scripted goal, to say the least, in the 64th minute. Mario Mandzukic, it is Champions League repeat that is gematria of 38. Recall, this is the gematria of Cardiff. Madrid repeat has gematria of 60. So does Buffon. So does Wales having gematria of 60. So does his fourth Champions League title. 2017 is a 37 year. It is La Joya Dybala, the jewel Dybala, and it is Allegri, the manager of Juventus, after Gematria of 37. This is why they appeared in the final in a 37 year. Notice how, like it says in the article, or in the Wikipedia page, it was Juventus' 7th Champions League final loss in 9 finals reached. This has to do with the fact that it is Ronaldo that has Gematria of 79. The reason for this, Juventus lose 7 finals in 9 appearances thanks to Ronaldo. That is the significance of the 79 Gematria. It was a rematch between Juventus and Real Madrid. Real Madrid won the 1998 final over Juventus. Which the interesting thing about 1998 is a 27 year. Juventus ended up having a 2-7 record in the Champions League final. This is why Mario Mandzukic scored in the 27th minute. Juventus were going to end up losing the game. So there he is. He scores in the 27th minute. He scores 7 minutes later after Cristiano Ronaldo. It was Real Madrid's 12th Champions League title. Dulce as Gematria 27 for Real Madrid. It represented the fact that they had a dynasty going. 3 titles in 4 seasons, taking Juventus to a 2-7 record. This is what the dynasty truly represented for them. Gareth Bale, Cardiff, Wales native, 1989, born in a 27 year. Born on a 41-day numerology. Juventus last won the Champions League during the 41st Champions League. They win the game 4-1 over Juve. It's 12 that is Gematria of 24. It was Real Madrid's 12th title. 12 is 24. Juventus is 24. Juventus winning percentage was 29. That is the Gematria of repeat in Spanish Gematria. Juventus opponents 5 out of 7 titles they won. Just need to see the significance of that. It was Juventus' 5th consecutive final loss, I believe it was. Juventus J's the 10th letter 2017 that's 10 and 10, and then that's a 10 year. June the 3rd of 2017. 2017 is 1 plus 3 plus a 6 month is 10. Juventus' 10th season ever since they were promoted back up to Serie A after Calciopoli. You had many players in this game who used to play for Juventus, who used to play for Real Madrid. Alvaro Morata came in 89th minute. I Campioni's Gematria of 89. Sami Khedira played for Real Madrid, won the Champions League title for them. Gonzalo Higuain for Juventus also played for Real Madrid, 107 goals. The Gematria of Cardiff, Wales. The Gematria of Campeonato Championship drought, Gematria 107. He played with Real Madrid before moving on to Napoli and then moving on to Juventus. His year numerology is 29. That's Gematria repeat. December the 10th of 2017. Year numerology of 59. That's 68. Yeah, that's 2016. Year numerology of 58. Real Madrid CF Gematria of 58. . Real Madrid, 2016 season that began. 2016 is a 36 year. Real has gematria of 36. They won the Champions League the following year after the winter break. After 60 minutes over at Wales, you saw a goal in the 61st minute after 60 prior minutes. This is why Casemiro scored in the 61st minute. That is the significance of that. Ronaldo scored after 63 prior minutes. June the 3rd can be written out as 6-3. Alvaro Morata wore number 21. He played in the Champions League final for Juventus in 2015. They were trying to win the final 21 years later, but instead it's Alvaro Morata that won the Champions League with Real Madrid after leaving Juventus for Real Madrid. There's another key connection right there. And by the way, remember what I talked about with the black and white stripes in 2016, 2017, adding up to 33, and the fact that it was Real Madrid's 33rd title, and the fact that Juventus wear the Freemasonic black and white stripes? Well, Madrid just wears solid white. That's another color of royalty. And purple is a color of royalty, and they wore that color in the Champions League final. It's purple that has gematria of 84. They won their third title in their past 4 seasons, Real Madrid. Real Madrid CF has the same gematria as Freemasonry. Real Madrid and Juventus are both two of the most Masonic hierarchical clubs, patriarchal clubs out there. And both of them were in the Champions League final. The European giants that represent aristocracies and monarchies, Real Madrid, Royal Madrid, and Juventus in the Masonic black and white stripes. Ronaldo defeats Juventus. Ronaldo and Real Madrid have a dynasty, while Gianluigi Buffon has a spell happening. And that's what was represented by that particular Champions League final. So if you're watching this, spell has gematria of 64, Buffon 64, which in the 65th edition of the Champions League could signal the end of the spell.